Let's unbox the Funko Pop Vinyl Deluxe figure of IG-12 with Grogu. Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there, thanks for visiting Varykino. I really enjoy collecting Funko Pop vinyl figures of Star Wars characters, but I have to say, it feels like Funko have been releasing a lot of characters as deluxe figures recently. And of course, unfortunately, that also comes with a much higher price tag, which means I can't collect them quite as frequently as I would like to. I just can't afford to keep buying these much more expensive figures, especially here in New Zealand, where they are quite pricey. So especially with a figure like IG-12, I waited until this one hit the clearance table. I certainly don't mind a little bit of box damage when it comes to getting Funko on sale, because especially considering that IG-12 is a reforged version of IG-11, which was a character released in the standard line, so I'm not really quite sure why Funko released IG-12 as a deluxe figure. I'm sure it has something to do with the inclusion of Grogu, but I'm really keen to get this one out of the packaging and compare it alongside a standard IG-11 figure. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, I'll get this deluxe figure out of the packaging so we can take a closer look at the details and do a side-by-side comparison. But first, let's take a quick look at the packaging. The Funko Pop vinyl figure of IG-12 with Grogu was released as a deluxe figure with the much larger packaging, which you can see alongside standard Funko Pop vinyl packaging here to the left. It's so much taller. And of course, rather than having a single window with a short wraparound to the right, deluxe boxes have a window that wraps around both the left and the right hand sides. And we also have a window in the top to let in a lot of light. I do find having so much clear plastic does make them a little bit more susceptible to a little bit of damage and compression, because we don't have cardboard supports here like we do along the left hand side of a standard box. As you can see, my one does have a little bit of crumpling along this left edge and around the cardboard here, so I'm certainly hoping to take this one out of the box very shortly. We've got the Funko Pop vinyl logo here in the top left with the IG-12 with Grogu title here. It notes that this is a bobblehead figure, number 720 from the Star Wars line. We also have the Star Wars logo underneath the window with a bit of an orange accent stripe, orange being the accent color for the Mandalorian series. You can see the SWTOR Mandalorian symbol here in the background, cardboard insert in behind the figure as well. Now this figure has kind of a C-shaped plastic holding it inside the plastic window. Thankfully, it doesn't have one of those clamshell styles where you get more plastic in front of the figure, but I do find that this does again give us a bit more creasability because we don't have extra plastic inside these windows here. Moving on to the side, we have the title for this figure, IG-12 with Grogu, and the number and the Pop vinyl logo. Moving on to the back of the box, again we have the Pop logo and a large Star Wars logo, the number for this figure, 720, and a large preview image here of the whole figure, though it of course does not include an image of the base that it does actually feature. We have some other figures from the Mandalorian line released around the same time as this figure. Din Grogu, number 712, Moff Gideon 713, and Bo-Katan Kryze 714. As it notes, collect them all. And we have the Mandalorian series logo with a little bit of that orange Mandalorian series accent line work there as well. Of course, the other window is just showing the figure from the side. We have barcode and copyright text on the underside. Now, I think this one is going to take up a lot less space, and I'm going to see a lot better details when I get them out of the packaging. So let's open them up. As usual, I'm going to open up my Funko box from the underside because I just like to keep my boxes as good a condition as I can, even if I did acquire them with a little bit of box damage. Let's pull out the tray. You can see that fantastic Mandalorian symbol there on the inside. That is fun if you do like to keep them in their boxes. Just adds a little bit of extra color. And here we can see the character. I really like the metallic finish on this one. Okay, let's just open up the clear plastic tray. This is always a little bit noisy. There we go. Okay, he is tall. That is really fun. And of course, we've got the bobblehead going already, and we've got that large black base there as well. Okay, let's quickly clear out the packaging so we can take a closer look and do some comparisons as well. I had a feeling the metallic finish on this figure would look so much cooler out of the box, and I have to say he looks really cool, particularly with that large bubble head. It's really picking up the light, and I can see so much cool detail here because of course IG-12 has quite a lot of fine robotic detail, especially on his body on this figure. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. So of course he's got a fantastic bubble head. That was pretty clear straight out of the box. He's got, you know, not a human shaped head. It's quite tall. This really fun droid head here that we've got these two little black eye sections here. We've got little painted red sections. Of course, the original sort of prop kind of has these hollow sections where sort of a red light can shine through. So I like seeing all of those red sections. They look like they are well painted to line up with the sculpting. And we've got all of these kind of extra little greeblies, all these little extra bits sculpted on here as well. He is bobbling around a lot, and we've got some recessed circular sections around the lower section there as well. Now, something that I did see through the box, I did buy this one online, so I was a little bit worried about the paint job when you order these things online, of course. The front paintwork here, the sort of weathering around the lower section did look quite scratchy, and I was a little bit worried about that looking at it through the plastic. But now that I've got it out, I can kind of see that that is all over the head, not just in that one section. So because it's kind of spread around, you can see it sort of up here as well, around the sides, and we even have some here on the top. So it's looking a little less like, you know, a floor, or that something's gone and scratched it somehow. It does actually sort of feel a little bit more like appropriate weathering, because of course he has gone through a lot. He's reforged as IG-12, of course, originally appearing in the series as IG-11, so it kind of makes sense that he's a little bit banged up. So I don't mind that weathering now that I've got him out of the box. It kind of makes a little bit more sense, whereas in the box the light was kind of shining through the front and it was really highlighting this kind of scratchiness around the front that had me just a little bit worried about how he would sort of look all out. But yeah, I can see that that weathering is used around his head, so thankfully it all kind of comes together a little bit, because this has got some big sort of flatter surfaces compared to the fine smaller detail of his body here, and this is just fantastic. So it's a pretty good silver match to the head, but we've got so much more fine detail and weathering that is kind of really getting in all to the detail there. You can see some of the weathering here around the feet and on some of the smaller flat surfaces like on the back here. Again, he's gone through a lot, so it makes sense that he's not shiny clean. I do like that, and it kind of just highlights the detail here. There is so much hollow work, which I think was not exactly obvious when he was in the box, that you can actually see all the way through. In behind Grogu here, we've got these sort of hollow sections that go all the way through to the back. So we've just got these tiny little sort of connecting points here. We've got painted wires here in the back, black and red. We've got black wires on his legs. Really nice. I like the pose. You know, he's being controlled by Grogu with his hands on the little control knobs there. I think that that's fun. He's got his hands like he is ready to grab. These ones are quite wide. This one here is a little bit more of a grabbing position there as well. Of course, they are not articulated. You can't move them, even though they do look like they could. I do like that action stance. I think that that's really quite fun. And he does look well attached to the base. We don't have sort of white glue cast around the feet. They're nice and tidy. Of course, they are permanently attached to the bases these days. And Grogu himself is looking adorable. We have his green head. We've got black paint for the eyes and a little bit of a black mouth there. We've got his little hands resting on the control knobs, and you can see his little iconic little jacket that he is wearing there. And I think he's even got tiny little painted fingernails. I think I can just make out the slightly different color paint just to accent the fingernails of his hands resting on those knobs. Now, you can't quite see all the way in there, but there is space around him, so it almost looks like he'd sort of pull him out. Of course, his ears are kind of keeping him connected in there. They're just kind of tucking in into sort of the the armpit connections there of the droid, but they do look like we've got almost, I think maybe the tips of the ears are just cut off. It's a little hard to show, but it looks like we've got most of the ears tucked in there under the arms. That is really fine detail, really fun to see. Just one of those fun aspects of sort of pulling them out of the box. I'm just noticing we've got a little bit of a heavier weathering spot down here, but to be honest, it's not really bothering me. We can see it looks a lot cleaner on this side. We've kind of got this little bit of a splodge here of that sort of dirty grey weathering effect painted there, but to be honest, weathering shouldn't be exactly symmetrical, of course. The paintwork on this is really fun. Just seeing like the different metallic tones around the shoulders, that's really quite nice. Very fun. I almost kind of wish I could move the arms just because they look like they could move. And of course, he does have some really fun movement in the show because he's just got such unique sort of joints. Some tiny little wires painted here in the back as well. Very, very cool. The paintwork on the head looks really nice. I like the way that everything sort of lines up with the sculpting detail. And of course, we've got the large black base, kind of an enlarged version of a standard single figure base. We've got this front plaque section here that is flat. I gotta say, it's kind of interesting that the Star Wars logo is just touching on this edge. And we've got a tiny little gap on that edge. So it's just a little bit aligned to the left, but it is straight. And also this is the white text. Some figures have silver, some have white. I kind of wish Funko was a little bit more consistent. I do like the silver metallic printing personally myself, but I have seen this particular color used on other figures. And of course, we've got the stamping and text there on the underside. So he looks fantastic. I love the bobblehead effect. He's moving so much. It's just, I can sort of hear Grogu doing the little controls from the Mandalorian episode. That's really cool. So I really enjoyed getting IG-12 out of the box to check out all of his details. But I gotta say, something I really, really wanted to see was him alongside IG-11, because of course, technically they are the same character. Now this is an earlier figure, number 328, where he is still IG-11, and you can see there is a big size difference, which I gotta say I'm kind of relieved about. I was really worried that they had simply scaled him up a little bit and then put him in a very big deluxe box and increased the price a lot to kind of make it seem like he's a much larger figure. But at least now that I can see them side by side, I can see that yes, he is bigger. I can see why he is a deluxe figure, even though he doesn't have a lot of plastic really, because he has very slender limbs. The base isn't sculpted. You know, some figures have sculpted landscapes, snow, sand, even thrones. He does just have a larger black circular base. You can see it alongside the standard one. It's a bit taller, a bit wider. So I'm not sure necessarily that he should cost a lot more than a standard figure, but at least I can see, yes, he is a deluxe one. I think the main viewpoint for why he is a deluxe is because of Grogu. He is such a popular character. Of course, lots of people like to collect him, and he is really fun in the episodes where he is driving IG-12 here, so I can understand why they might have scaled this figure up so that he is larger. If we have a look at the chest size on IG-11, if there was a tiny Grogu here, he would be really, really small. So I wanted to just take a look at IG-12 alongside some other figures. I recently opened up Palimoto, who was also holding a small Grogu figure here, and just doing a little bit of a quick comparison, it looks like the actual Grogu figures on both of these characters are about the same size. So it does kind of fit in keeping with some of the other characters, even if I think perhaps this IG-12 is quite tall, because of course he is taller, and as IG-11 compared to human characters, this one feels perhaps just a little bit taller than he should be in the show. He's very tall, but we can see that the Grogus are very similar in scale. So perhaps if we take this one out of the picture, we put him off to the side, these ones do look quite good together. And of course, I had to grab the Mandalorian himself as well, so we can sort of see these two together. And yeah, I was a little bit worried that the height and the larger scale of this figure was going to sort of throw off my display, because we do have that earlier version of the character in the standard figure scale. So I was a little bit annoyed to see this cool IG-12 figure coming out with that higher price tag and the larger scale. But now that I've got him out of the packaging, packaging, I can see how cool he is and how he works with the collection. I might just not put him right next to IG-11 because it kind of gives a little bit of a father-son appearance there. So I think maybe I'll sort of put him more in the season 1 section, not right next to the more later episode characters like IG-12 here. But I think he looks really, really cool. That's some of the fun elements of opening up figures, especially Funko figures, to build up scenes. I know not everyone likes to take their Funko figures out of the boxes, but for me, especially with the deluxe ones, the deluxe boxes vary so much in size. There is a lot of air and clear plastic around them, kind of obscures a lot of the details, and personally it saves a lot of shelf space for me to be able to put these figures out of their boxes alongside all of the other ones, because that just takes up a lot of space. I can put the box away and admire the figure out, and deluxe ones often have just a lot of detail. I know this one is a single figure. Many deluxe ones come with multiple characters, multiple sort of, you know, elements there that you can see from all different angles. So he's still kind of a little bit of a simple deluxe figure because he's a standard figure, but I think the scale, the fact that I can see Grogu, especially with his little smile there, he's having so much fun piloting IG-12. I do really see why this one was a deluxe. And you know what? Sometimes I get, you know, we all want to add as many collectibles to our collection as we want, and sometimes it's a little bit frustrating to see so many deluxe figures in the Funko lineup because I can't budget for as many as I'd like. I'm sure we can all appreciate that element of collecting, but I'm glad that I was able to get this one on clearance, because now that I've got him out of the box, I'm really, really happy to have this one in my collection. He was a fun character. I love those episodes, and I think he just looks so cool alongside my other figures. That's always really fun. You know, you do hope that you love every collectible that you add to collection. Sometimes you're a little bit nervous about how they're going to look in hand and out of the box, but this one has been a lot of fun. He looks great. I was just really concerned about how he's going to look with this one in existence being a standard figure, and in some ways this one almost looks a little undersized now that I can sort of see IG-12 with the other characters. But yeah, a really fun addition to the Mandalorian series lineup from Funko. So happy to have this one in my collection. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Star Wars Funko item and had a lot of fun checking out the details and comparing him alongside some other figures. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang on again really soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you're a Funko Pop vinyl fan, I recently unboxed the Palimoto with Grogu figure number 665. That video is linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as a whole Funko unboxing playlist. This is the way.